Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Unless you're driving, please don't close your eyes.
Mm.
But imagine you are at a massive international airport.
Okay.
You're in the terminal. It's loud. The fluorescent lights are humming. You've got your luggage. Maybe you're grabbing a stale coffee. You know that vibe.
Oh, yeah. It's a very specific kind of purgatory.
Exactly. But the defining feature of an airport isn't the bad coffee. It's the fact that you aren't staying there. You don't start, painting the walls of gate B4.
Right.
You don't buy furniture for the waiting area. It is strictly a place you pass through to get to your actual destination.
It's a transition point. You're there to get your ticket stamped and move on.
So here's the provocation I want to start with today, and it comes directly from the source material we're covering.
Mm-hmm.
What if Earth is gate B4?
Mm.
What if this entire human experience, everything we stress about, everything we build, the careers, the houses, is literally just a crowded, chaotic transit station?
That is a very vivid way to set the stage.
And here's where it gets really interesting. What if you aren't actually the top dog of the universe? We like to think we're the main characters, right?
Yes.
But what if humanity is actually just, middle management? Stuck right between the divine and the animalistic, desperately trying to earn enough points to upgrade our ticket before the flight leaves.
Middle management is a humble way to put it, but it captures the essence perfectly. We are taking a deep dive today into the philosophical writings of Xu.
Right.
Specifically, we're looking at a collection of 4 key texts: the position of life, the value of life, the meaning of life, and the purpose of life.
And I have to say, reading through this isn't your standard be nice to your neighbor kind of advice. This feels like a very specific, almost mathematical worldview.
Uh-huh.
We've got detailed rankings of souls compared to gemstones, theories about population control, and this central figure called the greatest creator.
It is a comprehensive system. The author, Xu, he almost frames it like a life science.
Yep.
The mission for this deep dive is to decode that operating system. We need to understand how this philosophy explains the origin of the universe, why we are here, and the precise mechanics, and I do mean mechanics, of spirituality and reincarnation.
Mechanics is the right word. I was reading through the position of life, and it felt like reading a technical manual for the soul. It breaks things down into laws and, formulas.
It does have that quality, and to understand any of it, we have to start with the concept you hinted at, the position. Where do humans actually fit in the cosmos?
Yeah, let's talk about that hierarchy, because usually, biologically speaking, we think we are at the top of the food chain, we run the planet. But this text says, look up.
Not even close?
You're actually not at the top.
Not at all. According to the text, once you understand the origin of the universe and the role of the greatest creator, you realize humans are positioned specifically in the middle. We are a bridge.
A bridge.
Above us are the celestial beings, what the text calls angels, Buddhas, or inhabitants of the 1,000-year world. Below us are the animals.
So we are literally the midway point.
And it's not just a random placement. It's about composition. The text defines humanity by a specific duality. We are a combination of spirit and flesh. That is our defining feature.
Okay, let's break that down. Spirit and flesh.
Think of it this way. Celestial beings are described as pure spirit. Animals are predominantly flesh with very little spiritual awareness. Humans. We are the volatile mix of both.
A messy middle.
Exactly. We have the spiritual capacity to understand the greatest creator, but we are dragged down by the instincts and desires of the flesh.
Which honestly explains so much about the human condition. It explains why we're so conflicted. One part of us wants to transcend and create art and love unconditionally, and the other part just wants to eat a cheeseburger and take a nap.
Yes, we are walking contradictions. And because of that dual nature, human life serves as that transit station between lower-level life spaces and higher-level life spaces.
And this is where the pressure kicks in, because a transit station implies movement. You don't just hang out there forever.
Correct. The text describes life from birth to death as a continuous game of accumulation. You are accumulating merits, and the outcome is strictly cause and effect.
So if you have abundant accumulation of merits, if you refine that spiritual side, your life evolves toward those higher levels, the celestial beings. And if you don't, if you just kind of coast.
If you have minimal accumulation, you remain stagnant. You essentially miss your flight and have to wait in the terminal again. You reincarnate as a human on Earth.
Okay.
But if you have no accumulation, or worse, negative accumulation where the flesh totally dominates the spirit, life devolves, you go down to the lower levels.
Which we will get into, because the descriptions of those lower levels are, well, they're intense.
They are.
But before we get there, the text mentions that the prerequisite for understanding any of this, our position, the hierarchy, everything, is understanding the greatest creator.
Yes. In this philosophy, the greatest creator is the central figure. The text explicitly states that the greatest creator is the sole source of the essence of life.
That's the source.
Without acknowledging that source, the argument is that you can't really understand why the hierarchy exists in the first place. It creates the framework for everything else.
It's like trying to understand how a house is built without acknowledging the architect.
Precisely. And speaking of how the house is built, this leads us to the section on physics.
Oh, this is my favorite part. I love it when philosophy tries to use hard science to explain the metaphysical. The text brings up the law of energy conservation.
It does. It cites the law of energy conservation and the law of the indestructibility of life.
But it uses them to propose a theory about population that it blew my mind. So usually when we see the human population growing, we're at what, 8 billion now? We think, oh, more people are being born. Biology.
Right. The simple explanation.
But this text argues that the total number of species is constant.
It views the universe as a closed system. The law of the indestructibility of life implies that life energy doesn't just appear out of nowhere.
Right.
So if the human population is increasing, the text asks a very logical question. Where is that increase coming from?
And the answer isn't more babies. The answer is animals evolving into humans.
Exactly. It argues that if one species increases, another must decrease to maintain the balance. So a booming human population implies that a vast number of animals are evolving upward, transitioning from the animal state into the human state.
Which is a fascinating, if slightly terrifying, way to look at a crowded city. You look around Times Square and wonder, okay, who here was a wolf in their last life? Who was a sheep?
Well, the text says the value of a wolf or a sheep or a human is actually equal in terms of existence. Everything has a spirit given by the greatest creator.
Okay, so it's not a value judgment.
No. A peach tree, a rose, a human, they're all equal in the eyes of the universe. The difference isn't value, it's spirituality.
And this leads us to the gemstone analogy. I want to read some of this because the specificity is just wild. The text compares the quality of human spirituality to the hardness of stones.
It's a very visual metaphor. It's essentially a Mohs hardness scale for the soul.
So let's walk through the grading rubric. At the very top, a hardness of 10. That's a diamond. That represents a Buddha or a celestial being. Top tier.
Pure, unbreakable, and most importantly, possessing a high refractive index.
Refractive index. What does that mean here?
Think about what a diamond does with light. It doesn't absorb it. It lets it pass through and turns it into brilliance. It's transparent. That is the metaphor for a perfect spiritual being, totally open to the light of the greatest creator.
Okay, that makes sense. So we start at diamond, then we go down a bit. Hardness of 9 is ruby or sapphire. Still amazing. Then 8.5 is a cat's eye. 7.5 gets you emeralds.
And notice the gradient. As the hardness decreases, the value or the perceived purity drops.
It keeps going. Down to quartz, jade, amethyst. Now we're in semi-precious territory. And then you get to the bottom of the barrel. Hardness of 3.5 to 5.5. We're talking pearls, coral.
Which are organic, soft, they can be scratched easily. They are beautiful, sure, but they lack that structural integrity.
And finally, at the very bottom, granite and common pebbles.
Right. And the takeaway here isn't just about rocks. It's that just as stones are graded by their refractive index, purity, and hardness,
humans are graded by their spirituality. So a human pebble versus a human diamond.
Precisely. And that hardness, that spiritual quality, determines your trajectory. The text says that based on this quality, one can evolve into a celestial being, or devolve into a pig, a dog, or a walking beast.
A walking beast. That is such a heavy phrase. It really reinforces the idea that being human isn't a permanent status. It's a slippery slope.
That is the core message of the text, the value of life. It emphasizes that the stakes are incredibly high and the time we have is incredibly short.
That's the transit station vibe again. You don't have forever to figure out your gate number.
Not at all. The text says our brief span determines our entire future existence. It lists the destinations very clearly. The upward paths lead to the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, or the ultimate Elysium world.
Sounds nice. Sign me up for the 10,000-year world. I feel like I could get a lot of reading done there.
It implies a stability and longevity we can't imagine. But the downward paths are equally specific.
What are they?
The realm of livestock, the netherworld, or flaming purgatory.
The realm of livestock freaks me out more than purgatory. Purgatory feels abstract. Livestock is very concrete. It implies a total loss of agency. You become a resource for someone else.
And here's the kicker for me. The text says everything is recorded. Meticulously recorded.
Oh, wow.
Every thought, every word, every intent.
Like a cosmic black box.
Yes. It describes a system where nothing is hidden. And this leads to a very radical perspective on wealth and success. The text asks a simple question. If you own all the treasures on Earth, you have the billions, the mansions, the power, but after your physical body dies, your life descends to the realm of livestock. What was the point?
Yeah, being the richest cow in the pasture doesn't really mean much when the butcher truck pulls up.
Exactly. It argues that earthly wealth is pointless if the spiritual outcome is devolution.
But on the other hand,
conversely, if you have nothing on Earth but your life ascends to the Elysium world for eternal happiness, you've won the game.
it's a complete inversion of how we usually keep score. We keep score with bank accounts and job titles. This says the only score that matters is the purity of the spiritual soul.
And achieving that purity is not easy because of what the text calls the internal battle. This comes from the meaning of life.
Right, the two opposing gods. This sounded almost mythological.
The text states that human nature contains two opposing sides, righteousness and evil, because humans are under the guardianship of two opposing gods.
So it's not just that I'm indecisive, it's that I'm a battlefield.
In a sense, it says we are a unity of gods and demons. Every day, every moment, we are faced with a choice.
And what are the choices?
One path requires sacrificing immediate interests for spiritual perfection. That's the path to the 1,000-year world. The other path pursues material enjoyment and wealth at all costs.
And the text is really honest about the confusion this causes. It says, look, being good doesn't guarantee you'll be rich or healthy in this life. And being wicked doesn't mean you'll be struck by lightning.
That is the paradox of success. We often look at a corrupt person who is wealthy and think, wait, the system is broken.
Yeah.
Or we see a saintly person living in poverty.
Oh, yeah.
Shofeng argues that we shouldn't judge moral standards by worldly success.
Because it's just a transitional phase.
Right. The metaphor used is that human society is an alchemical furnace.
I love that image.
It's powerful, isn't it? A furnace isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to refine. The heat, the pressure, the suffering, it's all there to refine the gold, which are the celestials, from the impurities.
So if you're feeling the heat, it's just part of the refining process.
That brings us to the ultimate question. What is the point of all this? Why go through the furnace at all? This is covered in the purpose of life.
And the definition is pretty blunt.
It is. The text states, the purpose of humanity is to serve the greatest creator, just as the purpose of flowers and plants is to serve humanity.
That's a strict hierarchy again. Plants serve us, we serve the greatest creator. But then it goes deeper into the why. Why do we suffer? Why is life hard?
Karma. The text is very clear. There are no phenomena or results in the universe without causes and conditions. If you are suffering, it is to repay debts from past lives.
And this is where the twist comes in. I think this is the most challenging part of the philosophy to actually live by. The text talks about enemies.
It does. It says that people who bully you, exploit you, humiliate you, or deceive you are actually your benefactors.
Benefactor. Okay, pause. The guy who scams you, the boss who yells at you, they are doing you a favor.
According to this logic, yes, because they are helping you transform karma.
Explain that transaction.
Think of it like a debt. By enduring their mistreatment, you are repaying a debt you owe from a previous existence. The more you suffer at their hands, the more debt you clear from your ledger.
That is a tough pill to swallow. It basically says, don't fight back. Just pay the bill.
Well, the goal is to escape the cycle. If you fight back with hate or vengeance, what are you doing?
Creating new karma.
Exactly. You're just swiping the credit card again. And that keeps you trapped. The text outlines a 3-step plan to win the game.
Okay. What is it?
Step 1. Stop creating new karma. That prevents future suffering.
2.
Accumulate merits. This means serving society and others. That pushes you toward the 10,000-year world.
And step 3.
Proclaim the glory of the greatest creator. The text says this opens the door to the eternal realm, the Elysium world.
So it's not just about personal purity. It's about acknowledging that source we talked about at the beginning.
Yes, it's a holistic system. You have to fix your past, manage your present, and orient your future.
When you lay it all out like that, it really does feel like a complete operating system for life.
It is a totally different lens. If we synthesize everything we've discussed from these four texts, the worldview is this. Life is a short, high-stakes test. It sits at the intersection of biology, physics, and spirituality, all under the watch of the greatest creator.
And we are just passing through the station.
We are. The text urges us not to get too comfortable or too distracted by the shiny things in the duty-free shop, so to speak. Because the plane is leaving soon, and your destination depends entirely on what you have accumulated inside.
I keep going back to that gemstone analogy. It's such a simple way to check in with yourself. In a tough moment, asking, am I being a diamond right now? Or am I being a pebble?
It's a useful metric. Hardness in this context isn't about being unfeeling. It's about spiritual integrity. How pure is your intent? How resistant are you to corruption? A diamond doesn't absorb dirt. It reflects light.
A diamond doesn't absorb dirt. That's good. That's really good. I'm going to remember that.
And remember the population theory we discussed. The idea that animals are evolving into humans. It suggests that being human is a privilege that has been earned, but it's a privilege that can be lost. It adds a sense of urgency to that hardness. You don't want to slide back down the scale.
It definitely changes how you look at the world. It's sobering.
That's the goal of these deep dives, right? To see the familiar through a strange new lens.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. We talked about the transit station. We talked about enemies being benefactors.
Right.
Next time you are stuck in traffic or someone cuts in front of you in line or your coworker steals credit for your idea, try to apply this filter just for a second.
It's a difficult experiment.
It is. But ask yourself, if this life is just a waiting room, determining whether you board a plane to the 1,000-year world or get sent back to the start, is that rude person actually an annoyance? Or are they a tool for your salvation? Are they helping you pay a debt you didn't even know you had?
And if you react with anger, are you just adding another suitcase of debt to your luggage for the next trip?
Exactly. Heavy thoughts for a Tuesday. But hey, nobody said ascending to the Elysium world was going to be easy.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.